Welcome to the Tax Sale Podcast, where tax sale investing is made easy. My name is Casey Denman. I'm a tax sale veteran. I'm the tax sale expert, author of the Tax Sale Playbook, founder of the Tax Sale Academy, and I am your host right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Hey, thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast episode, and thank you for choosing to learn about tax liens and tax deeds through this podcast. It's a completely free podcast brought to you through and because of the Tax Sale Academy at taxsaleacademy.com. All right, I've got an awesome episode in store for you today. So last week, we talked about what you should avoid as a new tax sale investor if you want to maximize your efforts. This week, we're talking about what you should focus on as a new tax sale investor to maximize your efforts. Now, I first think that we need to start off by defining what investment and return actually means. Most people tend to think that an investment is the money they put into something and the return is the money they get out of something. And of course, those definitions are absolutely correct, but they only tell one side of the story. When we take it a step farther, we can actually analyze this as input and output opposed to investment and return. Because when we buy tax defaulted real estate, we're doing much more than simply investing money and getting money back out. There are plenty of other factors that contribute to what we do as tax sale investors. When you invest in tax defaulted real estate, we are talking money, of course. You have to invest money, but we're also talking about time and effort. You know, an investment that makes, say, $10,000 within 10 minutes, that's really good. And it's far different than an investment that makes $10,000 but requires 500 hours worth of work. Even though you're making the same money off of it, one requires substantially more work. Likewise, an investment that you get into and out of with virtually zero concerns at all about anything happening is much different than the investment that you get into, and when you exit, you're worried about somebody suing you and get caught up in a lawsuit. Not all things are equal, even if your money going into and coming out of the investment appears the same. So keep that in mind, because it really took me a number of years to realize this. You know, I did the massive remodels. I traveled the country. I attended hundreds, if not thousands, of auctions. I met with local contractors. I met with local realtors. I sued people. I've been sued. I've done it all. I've also sat in my office, my vacation house, my car, an airplane, at a restaurant, and just about anywhere else that you can imagine when my phone dings, or when I get an email telling me that I've made quite a bit of money off an investment when I wasn't even thinking about that investment to begin with. So today I want to share a few things that I found to be relatively low input investments with high output returns. Now, some of these are actually product types and others are more strategies, but I've got 5 things that I want to share with you today, and hopefully you can apply 1 or 2 of these, if not all of them, to your business. The first one, I've said this one before, and that is vacant lots. Now, these are constantly looked over at auctions, and most investors simply don't understand them. But they're cheap to get into, cheap to hold on to, cheap to maintain, and they're mostly stress-free. You're typically not going to have to worry about repairs, code violations, vandalism, trespassers, fires, liability issues, inspections, showings, or any of that nonsense. If you market it correctly as well, there are also sometimes an even larger audience for vacant lots will appear than homes if you're priced cheap enough for those same reasons. I've been buying and selling lots all across the country for over 20 years now. They provide a huge chunk of my income. Find an area that has vacant lots on the tax sale list. Do your research, of course, learn how to market them properly, and enjoy the benefits that they provide. The second one are tax liens. Now, that price seems obvious because this is a tax lien and tax deed podcast, but the reason I put this on here is I know I have a number of people that don't want anything to do with tax liens. They only want to invest in tax deeds. There's a lot of people that watch this, and that is their stance. So this is for the I only want to invest in tax deeds crowd. Unlike tax deeds, where you have to market and sell the property in order to realize your investment, with tax liens, you're typically doing about half the work, since you'll be researching the property, which of course is the same as tax deeds, but you're going to realize your investment 90 to 95% of the time when you get a check in the mail. So all the back end stuff where you have to actually market that property and sell that property is not going to be required the majority of the time. So in other words, there's much less work with tax liens than there is with tax deeds. Now, you're going to make less money because of that. You're not going to see 80, 100, 500% returns with tax liens. But in many cases, 10 to 18% is certainly not out of the realm of possibility, and that is a very good return for doing some upfront research and putting your money in that lien. Now, I actually had somebody that made a comment on my YouTube channel a couple weeks back talking about how much work it seemed like for 18%. Obviously, I don't think that person has much investment experience at all, considering prior to this year and likely in the very near future, many savings accounts will be hovering around 1%, and CDs might offer a couple of extra points. So 18% is a substantial return, especially if the funds are coming from an IRA or they're being invested as an alternative to simply parking that money in a bank somewhere. Again, you do get lower returns than tax deeds, but it's substantially less effort. So keep that in mind. The next one, online marketing. This is a skill that every investor should know. The days of sticking a sign in the yard and advertising the property in the local newspaper are over. They say that around 98% of home buyers will start their search on the internet. Now, you can go out there and chase those other 2% if you want to, but it will likely not be worthwhile in the long run. So instead, take the time to learn how to market properties online. And I'm not talking about just a social media account. Knowing how to operate Instagram or Facebook won't take you where you need to go in most cases unless you're an influencer or something like that. Instead, spend the time learning. Learn what SEO is, CPC, all these acronyms that internet marketers use. Go to YouTube. Take some online classes, read some books, learn how to write sales copy. Go to Google and just type in internet marketing and start learning. There are endless ways to learn if you take the time to do so. And the better you are at this discipline, the more your business will grow and the more money you will make. It is as simple as that. And by the way, if you don't learn this in the next 5, 10, 15 years, you will end up out of business. Internet marketing is here and it's here to stay. The next one kind of ties in depending on how you structure it, but that will be your buyer's list. It took me years to really understand the power of a buyer's list. It took me years to really start building my buyer's list. And looking back, that is something that I wish I would have done much, much sooner. I've got episodes on building your buyer's database. And of course, we teach about this in depth inside the Tax Sale Academy. But here's the short version. You buy a property or two at a very good price. You advertise that property like crazy, any place you can possibly put that advertisement. And when you do it, you're advertising it at a price that is far below all the other comparable properties in the area. That way you attract a lot of attention and a lot of potential buyers. Ideally, of course, you have multiple people wanting to buy that same property. Now, obviously, you can only sell that one property to one person, so you put the other buyers, the other interested parties, along with, of course, the person that actually buys it, onto your buyer's list. And then you rinse and repeat over and over and over again. Eventually, you'll have built up a list that is ready and able to buy whatever you send them, provided it is a good deal. Now, this does take effort in the short term, but if you do it correctly, and there are ways to make sure it's done correctly, eventually, you'll get to the point where you buy a property, send an email, and sell a property. Using my buyer's list, I've been at an auction before where I buy a property, I'll send out either an email or a text message, and I'll have a committed buyer, sometimes even with a deposit that has been sent to me before I even leave that auction for a property that I just bought. So what happens is you go out there, you buy properties, and you sell them with virtually no marketing outside of perhaps an email or a text message to people on your buyer's list. It's a tremendous, tremendous resource that will create a near on-demand cash flowing business for yourself. And the last one today is out of area investing. Now, 10, 15 years ago, there is no chance this would have been on the list of low input, high output strategies. At that time, it required substantial traveling and attending in-person auctions, which I did for many, many years. But over the years, especially after 2020, more and more counties have transitioned to online tax sales. In addition, the research that we need in order to figure out if we're making a good investment or not is becoming increasingly easier to do online as more and more counties have their information online. Now, I remember when I first got into this business, and my income quickly became capped simply because I was investing in just one market. Regardless where you're at, there are only so many properties that will go to tax sale in one single market. But there are thousands of properties sold every single day across the country. So while we are limited to a set number of properties in our home county, if we're willing to attend online auctions for out-of-area properties, then we suddenly have increased our chances for success exponentially. In addition to auctions and data going on, it's also easier than ever to find local scouts that will help you with some of the groundwork required for our diligence. Sure, it does take time to learn the skill set, but once you put in that time up front, you will reap the benefits for years and years to come. Many of the members inside the Tax Sale Academy right now are doing just that. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of international members that don't even come to the United States, and some that have never been to the United States that are making a lot of money investing in the tax sale system here. So there it is, 5 things that require somewhat minimal input or effort, especially once you take the time to learn the skills that produce substantial outputs or returns. These are the game changers for many people in this business. So I truly hope you found this episode helpful and you're able to apply at least 1 or 2 of these to your own tax sale business. That's all I've got for today. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If so, do me a huge favor and leave me some positive feedback on whatever podcasting or video platform you're listening to us on or watching us on right now. These episodes are free, of course. I don't charge a listening or membership fee for this podcast. But if you would please take the time to leave that positive feedback, it really helps us out in the podcasting world and might even serve to pay it forward to somebody who learns about this incredible business simply because you took the time to tap that 5-star review or leave a positive feedback comment. And as always, if we can be of any additional help, make sure you check out all the links in today's show notes, including the one to our step-by-step comprehensive tax sale training academy at taxsaleacademy.com. Hey, take care, folks, and make it a successful day. We'll see you next time right here on the Tax Sale Podcast. Bye-bye.